Imagine a city wrapped in fear. It's the early 1940s, and Warsaw is under Nazi occupation. Swastika flags hang from every building, and soldiers patrol the streets. In the heart of the city, behind towering brick walls crowned with barbed wire, hundreds of thousands of Jewish families are trapped. This is the Warsaw Ghetto. Inside, life is a constant struggle, food is a luxury, and disease spreads like wildfire. Children, once full of life, grow thinner each day. Hope is a flickering candle in a hurricane. For many, survival seems impossible. But outside these walls lives a woman named Irena Sendler. She isn't a soldier, she carries no weapon, she's not a politician, she makes no grand speeches. Irena is a social worker, a quiet hero in the making. Her father, a doctor who treated poor Jewish patients when no one else would, taught her a lesson she never forgot. When someone is drowning, you don't ask who they are, you just help. Those words became her mission. When the Nazis sealed the ghetto, Irena found a way in. Her official reason was to inspect sanitary conditions, a cover to prevent epidemics. But her real purpose was far more dangerous and profound. She was there to save the children. At first, she smuggled in food and medicine, small acts of defiance against an overwhelming tide of cruelty. But soon, the horrifying reality set in. No amount of aid could stop what was happening. The ghetto wasn't just a prison, it was a death sentence. Children were perishing every single day. Irena knew she had to do more. She made a decision that would redefine courage. She began smuggling children out. The methods were born of desperation and sheer audacity. Tiny babies were sedated and hidden in toolboxes, sacks, and even coffins. Older children learned to navigate a terrifying new world of secret passages, hidden courtyards, and foul-smelling sewer tunnels. Some were whisked away in ambulances, disguised as patients dying of typhus. Every single rescue was a dance with death. A single cry from a baby, a suspicious glance from a guard, a whisper of betrayal, any of these could mean immediate execution for Irena and the child. But the most difficult part wasn't facing the soldiers, it was facing the parents. Picture this, a mother in a dimly lit room, clinging to her child. She knows that keeping them close means almost certain death, but letting them go means she might never see them again. It's an impossible choice. Irena had to look these parents in the eyes and make a heartbreaking proposal. I can try to save your child, but I can't promise you will ever be reunited. Many hesitated. Some refused, unable to bear the separation. Those who agreed handed over not just their children, but their entire world, their last shred of hope. Irena made them a solemn vow. She would never forget their children's true identities. To honor this promise, she meticulously recorded every child's real name and their new, adopted name on thin slips of paper. She sealed these precious lists inside glass jars and buried them beneath an apple tree in a friend's garden, praying for a day when families could find each other again. Day after day, week after week, child after child. Through her network of brave accomplices, Irena and her team managed to save an astonishing 2,500 children from the jaws of the Holocaust. But her story doesn't end there. The war was still raging, and for Irena Sendler, the ultimate test of her courage was just around the corner. Her capture was inevitable, and what she endured next reveals a level of strength that is almost beyond belief. Thanks for watching. If you were moved by Irena's story, please like this video and subscribe for more tales of incredible hidden heroes. In 1943, the Nazis finally caught her. Someone had betrayed the network. Irena Sendler was arrested and taken to Powiat prison, a place notorious for its cruelty and torture. The Gestapo knew she was deep within the underground resistance. They believed she held a treasure trove of information, names, addresses, connections, and they were right. They demanded everything. She gave them nothing. They beat her. They broke both of her legs. They tortured her relentlessly, day after day. But through it all, Irena never uttered a single name. Not one child, not one parent, not one of her fellow rescuers. Her silence was a shield, protecting thousands. Finally, the Nazis grew tired of their games and sentenced her to death. Her story should have ended right there, a tragic but heroic footnote in a dark chapter of history. But the Polish underground resistance refused to let that happen. They couldn't lose someone like Irena, so they hatched a plan. Bribes were discreetly arranged, guards were paid off. One day, Irena was led out, supposedly for her execution, but instead of a firing squad, she found freedom. She was secretly released, while official records were updated to show her as executed. Now a ghost in her own city, Irena was forced into hiding. She was unable to walk properly, living under a constant threat and a false identity. Most people would have stopped. Most people would have been broken by the physical and psychological trauma. But Irena Sendler was not most people. She did the opposite. Even while in hiding, even while crippled by her injuries, she continued her work from the shadows, a silent guardian angel, still pulling strings to help others. And all the while, the jars remained buried under that apple tree, waiting for the day the world would be sane again. When the war finally ended in 1945, the full horror was revealed. The Warsaw Ghetto was gone, reduced to rubble. Most of the parents were gone, murdered in the death camps. Entire families, entire communities had been wiped from existence. As soon as she was able, Irena returned to the garden where she had buried her precious secret. With hands that still trembled from her ordeal, she dug into the earth. She unearthed the glass jars. Inside, fragile and faded, were the lists, the names of 2,500 children. This was more than just paper and ink. It was proof that these children had existed, that they had been loved, and that someone had cared enough to remember their true identities. Now came the most heartbreaking part of her mission. Irena began the painstaking process of trying to find surviving relatives, hoping to reunite the children with what was left of their families. A few miraculous reunions did happen, moments of pure, tearful joy in a world of sorrow, but they were the exception. For most of the children, there was no one left to return to. The pain of those moments, of having to tell a child that their parents were never coming back, stayed with Irena for the rest of her life. And yet, despite everything she had done, everything she had endured, Irena never once called herself a hero. For decades after the war, her extraordinary story remained largely unknown. She went back to a quiet life, working as a social worker, always helping others, but rarely speaking about what she did during the war. In her mind, she had simply done what any decent human being should do in the face of such evil. She famously said, "Every child saved with my help is the justification of my existence on this earth, and not a title to glory." But the world eventually caught up with her courage. In her later years, her story came to light, and she began to receive the recognition she had long deserved. She was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. Her legacy serves as a powerful reminder that one person, armed with compassion and unwavering resolve, can stand against the darkest of tides and save a world. Irena Sendler's story isn't just about saving lives, it's about preserving humanity itself. In the darkest days of World War II, amidst the horror of the Warsaw Ghetto, one woman made a choice. Her name was Irena Sendler, and her story is a powerful reminder that even in the bleakest of times, a single person can ignite a beacon of hope. Irena was a Polish social worker. When the Nazis invaded Poland and created the Warsaw Ghetto, trapping nearly 500,000 Jewish people in horrific conditions, she refused to stand by. She saw the suffering, especially of the children, and she knew she had to act. So, she joined Zagota, the Polish council to aid Jews, and began one of the most daring rescue operations of the entire war. Her plan was incredibly risky. She used her official papers as a social worker to enter the ghetto, supposedly to inspect sanitary conditions. But her real mission was far more dangerous. She began smuggling children out. Think about the courage that took. The VC trip was a dance with death. She hid children in anything she could find. Ambulances with false bottoms, coffins, sacks, even toolboxes and potato sacks. She once smuggled a baby out in a mechanic's toolbox to quiet the children's cries and avoid suspicion from the guards and their dogs. She even trained her own dog to bark on command as she passed through the checkpoints. But getting the children out was only the first step. She then had to give them new lives. She created false identity documents and placed them with non-Jewish Polish families in convents or in orphanages. The risk for these families was immense. Hiding a Jewish person was punishable by death for the entire household. To ensure the children could one day be reunited with their families, or at least know their true identities, Irena kept a secret record. She wrote down the real names and new identities of every single child she saved. She didn't trust paper records that could be easily found. Instead, she wrote the names on thin strips of tissue paper and buried them in glass jars under an apple tree in a friend's backyard. It was a simple, yet profound act of foresight and hope. Her luck eventually ran out. In 1943, the Gestapo arrested her. They took her to the infamous Powiat prison, where she was brutally tortured. They broke her feet and legs, but she never gave away the names or locations of the children or her network of helpers. She was sentenced to death. But even then, her story wasn't over. On the day of her scheduled execution, members of the Zagota resistance managed to bribe a guard who helped her escape. Officially, she was listed on public bulletins as having been executed. For the rest of the war, Irena lived in hiding, but she never stopped her work. She continued her rescue efforts under a false name, a ghost who refused to stop fighting for the innocent. By the end of the war, Irena Sendler and her network had saved approximately 2,500 Jewish children, more than the famous Oskar Schindler. After the war, Poland fell under a communist regime, which didn't celebrate wartime heroes who weren't aligned with their ideology. So, for decades, Irena's incredible bravery was largely forgotten. She lived a quiet life, never seeking recognition. It wasn't until the late 1990s that her story came to light, in a truly unexpected way. A group of high school students in a small town in Kansas, USA, were working on a history project. They stumbled upon a brief mention of a woman who saved thousands of children. They couldn't believe they had never heard of her. Their project, a play they titled Life in a Jar, brought Irena's story out of the shadows and onto the world stage. Suddenly, the world started to listen. Irena began receiving the honors she had long deserved. She was recognized by Yad Vashem, Israel's official Holocaust memorial, as one of the righteous among the nations. She received Poland's highest honor, the Order of the White Eagle, and was even nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. When asked about her heroism, she would always say, "I am not a hero. Heroes do extraordinary things. I only did what was necessary." She insisted the real heroes were the Polish families who risked everything to shelter the children. Irena Sendler lived to be 98 years old. Her life teaches us a profound lesson. True courage isn't always loud and flashy. Real goodness doesn't need a spotlight. The most heroic acts often come from ordinary people who simply refuse to look away from injustice. Irena Sendler didn't change the world with armies or power. She changed it one child at a time. And because of her choice, the choice of compassion over fear, thousands of lives were saved. Families were born, and futures were created. Her legacy isn't just in the jars she buried. It's in every life that exists today because she dared to act. And that single, powerful choice continues to echo through generations. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, please share it so more people can learn about the incredible life of Irena Sendler. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories of hidden heroes.